Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Summon Skull Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for October 2022. I've always loved updating the Summon Skull deck. It's one of my favorites of Yu-Gi's original monsters, and just with all the many different summoning methods we have for getting out the Summon Skull's many different extra deck forms and main deck forms, I figured an update was definitely due for the deck. It's definitely been a while, I think over a year, since the last update to the Summon Skull deck, and with all the different Archfiend support we have to support with the playstyle of summoning out the many different forms of Summon Skull and making use with this Archfiend card to give you this resource of one of Yugi's original boss monsters on the field is always a fun playstyle to me. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the main deck monsters, I'm running 3 copies of Summon Skull. This is your go-to monster, being a 2500 attack point monster that just needs 1 tribute, but still being very easily summoned out onto the field using the many different cards we run in the deck. It's a definite 3 of, because once again, you can summon it out with all of your different forms of this card, and it's one of the normal monsters to also just say it's counted as an Archfiend card, since the original name of the Summon Skull was Archfiend in its name also, so they just made up for this in the TCG by giving it that little bit of extra text at the bottom of any updated card of Summon Skull. For the other main deck monster, I also run 3 copies of Archfiend's Awakening. You can ritual summon this card with Contract with the Abyss. This card's name becomes Summon Skull while on the field, but still treat it as an Archfiend card. It cannot be destroyed by battle, except by battle with a ritual monster, and cannot be destroyed by monster effects except of ritual monsters. And if this card is used control that was ritual summoned, it is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card. You can special summon 1 Summon Skull from your hand, deck, or graveyard, giving you another resource on the field to then use for your other Summon Skull plays. Is very, very useful with this card, and we have multiple other ways of ritual summoning this card onto the field with some of the other spells, which we'll get to when we go over the spells. For more special summoning power, I also run 2 Archfiend's Commander. This card lets you just special summon it out if you control an Archfiend card. If it is special summoned this way, you do have to destroy an Archfiend card you control. But if it's tribute summon, you can special summon an Archfiend monster back onto the field. So if you use Summon Skull to tribute this card out, you can special summon it back onto the field again. And then with that, you have 2 level 6 monsters to either, let's say, use for a fusion play or even overlaying the 2 together to go into our Archfiend's Ascent, which is the Xyz monster, needing the 2 level 6 monsters to summon it out onto the field. I only run 2 of this card. I thought of running more, but with its limitation for its special summon play, I find 2 just to be fine. The other Archfiend support cards we run are 2 Skull Archfiend of Lightning, once again being a level 6 monster. Definitely does help with its playstyle, but also just being able to protect itself if it's targeted by a card effect and rolling a 6-sided dice, negating the effect if you roll a 1, 3, or 6. It's a 50-50 shot if you were to go for the negation, and then once again just being another level 6 monster that can meet the requirements for many of the other monsters we run in the deck. For another boss monster in the main deck play, I'm also running 3 copies of Archfiend Emperor, the First Lord of Horror. You can normal summon this card without tributing, but its original attack and defense become halved. If summoned this way, destroy it during the end phase. You cannot special summon any monsters except for Fiend-type monsters, and once per turn, you can banish 1 Archfiend card from your hand or graveyard, then target 1 card on the field and destroy that target. So even if you're trying to just get over a pesky card your opponent may have, you have, let's say, Summon Skull and the Archfiend Emperor in your hand, you can normal summon it, banish the Summon Skull, and that's one way to destroy a card on your opponent's field, or even just use any of the cards that may have accumulated in your graveyard as that banish cost as well. And if special summon back onto the field, it's a 3000 attack point, 2000 defense monster, so definitely a much better main deck boss monster to handle. And then one of the other problem cards in the extra deck is the fact that Archfiend's Call is a level 6 synchro monster, so you can't use the Summon Skull to summon this card out unless you obviously would try to reduce its level, but I didn't really want to work on that with this deck. I wanted to focus on other monsters that could just be easily used to summon it out. So I am running 3 Archfiend Cavalry, and if this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Archfiend monster in your graveyard, except for Archfiend Cavalry, and special summon it, but it cannot attack this turn. So then you have the option to special summon many of the different Archfiend monsters. This can be one of the ways to summon out your Archfiend Emperor, or even Skull Archfiend of Lightning, the Archfiend Commander, and even Summon Skull back onto the field, all being very good resources to use with all the other different monsters we run in the deck. For the tuner monsters to go with Archfiend Cavalry, I also run 2 copies of Red Resonator, being a card that can just special summon out the Archfiend Cavalry onto the field, and then there's your go-to level 6 for summoning out your Archfiend Synchro monster. And then the 1 Plague Spreader Zombie, which when it's sent to the graveyard, you have another special summon by just placing a card from your deck on the top of your deck, and then using it with our next go-to monster, which is Armageddon Knight, because then you can just use Armageddon Knight to send Plague Spreader to the graveyard, just put the top card of your deck onto your deck, and then put card of your hand, not your deck, obviously, summoning out the Plague Spreader Zombie, and then there's your synchro play from there, just using the 1 card, as long as you have another card in your hand. And then the last main deck monster is Red Eyes Black Dragon. Now this is because we run some of the Archfiend setup cards in the extra deck to use for fusion summoning, so Red Eyes Black Dragon definitely does come in handy for that additional monster to run. And that is it for the main deck monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I'm running 2 copies of Contract with the Abyss and 2 copies of Advanced Ritual Art. The Contract with the Abyss is specified for your Archfiend's Awakening for ritual summoning it out, but Advanced Ritual Art just allows you to send Summon Skull from your main deck to the graveyard as one of the rituals, setting it up in the graveyard while still saving cards in your hand, thanks to Archfiend's Awakening, something on the field with just the spell card and it in your hand to use, and even setting up other cards in your graveyard if you were to summon out through a normal summon Archfiend Emperor, having your banish already set up in the graveyard for you. And I also run 3 Preparation of Rites just for the ritual search, and if you've already ritual summoned during that game and you have the spell in your graveyard, you can add it back to your hand to reuse as well, giving you that plus off of the graveyard and that plus off of the main deck search as well. For the fusion plays, I run 2 copies of Polymerization and 1 copy of Fusion Substitute, because with cards like your Archfiend Commander, you can summon this card in the field, have both of the requirements for your fusion right on the field to use, and then get the additional draw with the banish of Fusion Substitute from your graveyard, but still having the play ready to go with cards like Polymerization, just being able to use monsters in your hand to summon out what I would say is one of the better extract monsters, being Archfiend's Manifestation. And then for more draw power, I also run 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, just for the draw, for using the different dark attribute monsters you run in the main deck. You may have multiples in your hand that you just want to banish off, so you can hopefully get to some of the better cards needed for some of your engines, whether it be for the synchro play, the ritual play, or even just hoping to go for the Xyz play. And then for some of the lower numbers for the spells, I also run 2 copies of Silent Doom, just an easy special summon of your Summon Skull back onto the field. And you summon it in defense and cannot attack, but still, you're just going to use it as a resource for any of your extra deck or ritual plays using this card. I run 2 of it also because it's not a once per turn, so if you have multiple Summon Skulls in your graveyard, you can just summon both onto the field, and then have both those resources for whatever play you may have wanted to go for. And then for the one-ofs for the spells, I run 1 Monster Reborn, once again, just like Silent Doom without any of the restrictions, and 1 Red Eyes Fusion. So you can use this along with the Red Eyes Black Dragon we run to send it and 1 of your other cards to the graveyard to go for your desired fusion. And then for the trap cards, the only traps I run in the deck are 2 copies of Sinister Yorishiro. Each time a level 5 or higher fiend type monster you control would be normal summoned, it can be normal summoned without tributing. If exactly 1 normal summoned set level 5 or higher fiend monster and your graveyard would be destroyed, you can send this card to the graveyard instead, protecting those fiend monsters, but also just being another answer to summon out your Archfiend Emperor, the first Lord of Horror, without the tribute play, and even just one of our other monsters, including the Skull Archfiend of Lightning, onto the field without that tribute, and more protection for their own card effects thanks to this trap card. And then moving on now to the extra deck, I am running 2 copies of Archfiend's Manifestation. We've gone over the Ritual Monster and the main deck Summon Skull Monster. Archfiend's Manifestation needs 1 Summon Skull Monster and 1 Dark Attribute Monster, which can easily be done with the main deck. This card's name becomes Summon Skull while on the field, but it's still treated as an Archfiend card. All Summon Skull you control gain 500 attack. If Fusion Summon card you control is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can special summon 1 Summon Skull from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So then more special summoning, just like the Ritual Monster, using this card, and just needing fusion requirements, making Polymerization definitely needed for an easy summon of your fusion monster. I also run the Archfiend Black Skull Dragon, needing a level 6 Archfiend monster. That's a normal monster, and 1 Red Eyes normal monster. So then you can just send Red Eyes and Summon Skull to the graveyard to summon out this card using your Red Eyes fusion. So definitely a scary boss monster to get out. If you wanted to run Black Skull Dragon, you can take out one of the next 2 options that I run in the deck, which is either First of the Dragons or Guardian Chimera Chimera. If you don't have Guardian Chimera, you can always put in Black Skull Dragon for this card instead. And for the first of the dragons, if you open up multiple Summon Skulls in your hand, using it for a polymerization, I would say it's definitely a better answer if you don't have some of the other setup to use with Archfiend's Manifestation. For the synchro plays, I run 2 Archfiend's Call. Like I said, this is a level 6 synchro monster, so you have to use the other monsters I mentioned along with the tuners to summon it out. Becomes Summon Skull while on the field, but it's still treated as an Archfiend card. Your opponent cannot target any Summon Skulls you control with card effects. If this synchro summon card is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can special summon 1 Summon Skull from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Just again, more summon resources thanks to this card onto the field, and more protection. The ritual protects itself from ritual plays, but this synchro monster protects them all from any targets of card effects. And I also run 2 Archfiend's Ascent for more of the power. This card's name becomes Summon Skull while on the field, but still treated as an Archfiend card. If Summon Skull would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach 1 material from this card instead. And this succeeds summon card you control is sent to the graveyard, giving you another special summon of Summon Skull from your hand, deck, or graveyard. With the other Exceeds monster I run just being 1 Sky Thunder Zeus to then attack with your Archfiend's Ascent, and then just overlay into it if you use the 1 material already, but still need another boss monster to clear off the field. And then for the Link monsters, I run 1 Master King Archfiend, 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, and then lastly 1 Nightmare Unicorn. I don't run any Link 4s. I'd say they're more difficult to get with some of the higher level monsters we're running in this deck, so most of the time if I'm going to go for a bigger boss monster, it's going to be for one of my Summon Skull extract monsters anyway. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck for each summon, I would say some of the easiest ones definitely do rely on if you have Archfiend's Awakening, and then just one of the ritual plays. The ritual summon is definitely one of the easier ones to go for, because then if you just have Advanced Ritual Art and then Archfiend's Awakening in your hand, you can activate Advanced Ritual Art to then send from your main deck to the graveyard your Summon Skull, special summoning out your Archfiend's Awakening. And then once again, if you have this set up and let's say one of your other monsters on the field, if you haven't even gone for the tribute summon yet, because you haven't even used your normal summon, you can tribute out your Archfiend Commander using your Archfiend's Awakening on the field, then using it to then summon back to the field your Summon Skull, or even the play of summoning Archfiend's Awakening back onto the field since it was properly summoned. And then you can use the 2 to overlay into your Archfiend's Ascent, having the 2 level 6 monsters needed for this card thanks to that. And then with that, you either have a monster that can swing into your opponent and then also lay into Arsenal Zeus afterwards, or even going for more of the protection play, because if it's sent by a card effect, giving you another Summon Skull onto the field, and that's what you'll have to remember with each one of your extra deck resources also. And with each one of these for the play, you could have even gone for the Archfiend's Commander special summoning after you go for the Archfiend's Ascent. And then once again, remember, it has to be destroyed by an opponent's card effect to get the special summon, so most of the time you want to go for the tribute to just get that other special summon onto the field anyway. For the fusion play, if you go for the setup of Archfiend's Manifestation, remember one of them has to be Summon Skull, so as long as you have that other card in your hand, you can use it and the fusion play of any other dark attribute monster in your hand, which you can even use to set up cards like Plague Spirit or Zombie if you open it up in your hand, with cards like Polymerization to summon out your Archfiend's Manifestation. And this is one of the better ones because it's also the power boosting one on the field, giving all these Summon Skulls you control 500, I can imagine 5,000 attack. So then if you can summon back your Summon Skull onto the field, it makes it a 3,000 attack point monster in combo with this card on the field. So you definitely want to go into Archfiend's Manifestation after, let's say, one of your other Archfiend monsters was destroyed and you special summoned out a Summon Skull while still having the fusion resources in your hand to then go into the Archfiend's Manifestation while keeping a Summon Skull on the field, or even one of your other ones since they all count as your Summon Skull while on the field anyway in name. The last one being the Synchro Monster, and that one comes down to just being able to use your Archfiend Cavalry along with one of your tuners, whether you have the Plague Spirit set up in your graveyard or just going for the Red Resonator and special summoning this card out, and then having the level 6 Synchro play to go for from there. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like I said, Summon Skull is definitely one of my favorites to update, and I'm glad I continue to. Maybe one day we'll see more support. Maybe the Link Monster form of Summon Skull or even the Pendulum form definitely can add for some more crazy plays in this deck. But as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.